Man, this turned out longer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. So, this one again is going to be about Irish rugby and Leinster. I'm sorry. This one was supposed to go up to Instagram for you guys to vote on. But, yeah, the weekend that was in it, I have to talk about the Champions Cup final. I have never seen a team lose after getting so far ahead like Leinster. To me, it seemed like the game plan was to shock and awe in the first 20 minutes and then go off the back of that and just play territory. But man, La Rochelle had their own idea about this. Yes, they went down 3 tries to nil, but they backed their process and they came back into this game and they came back into it with a vengeance. It didn't matter to them how far behind they went. It didn't matter that Leinster were physically more dominant, that they were dominating the scoreboard, that they were, you know, that did not matter. La Rochelle had their own plan. And maybe it was the right out the pressure from Leinster and then have a cut at it once their opportunity came because they were always going to get their purple patch. Whatever it was, they backed their process to get the win and they got it right. They used every single ball that Leinster wasted and there was a lot of it and they punished them. For Leinster, for all their dominance in their first half, it was only 23-14 going in at halftime. 9 points, two scores, and it was the chance that La Rochelle needed. That try from Sutton just before halftime changed it. And me as a Leinster fan, yeah, I saw the writing on the wall. Leinster had to come out in the second half and come out of the blocks swinging. They had to get the first score. They had to get this game out to 14 points. But they didn't. La Rochelle had other plans. They got some really good pressure and they drew out the penalty right in front of the Leinster posts. Slotted it, and all of a sudden it's a 6 point game. And yeah, the fear from last year's final started to set in. Look, the two sides would exchange points, but the main point is 10 minutes to go. It was 6 points. And as I said, yeah, this had the writing on the wall of a repeat of what happened last year. 10 minutes to go, Leinster are kicking poorly. They're under the pump from La Rochelle. And then it happened. La Rochelle get over for a try. They convert it. And 73 minutes into the game, La Rochelle go in the lead for the first time by a single point. And now Leinster had to chase the game. And this is the first time they really threatened La Rochelle the entire second half. And they drew a penalty. It was roughly 50 meters out. It was on an angle. Would Rossburn have got it? Would Sexton have got it? I mean, I don't think it matters. I think whatever would have happened if Ross took the shot at goal and missed, or if he went down the line and they didn't score a try, it was going to be the wrong decision. 77 minutes into a game, 50 meters out on the angle, he went down the touchline. In my head, he probably made the right choice. His legs were going to be tired at that stage. Kicking that would have been difficult. So Leinster go to the corner, 5 meters out. And yeah, a moment of madness from Mikey Alatoa. Sees him get a red card after a dangerous clear out in a ruck, and no arguments from it. Right call, it was red card all day long. But yeah, just the inaccuracies of Leinster in that second half is just not something I've been used to as a Leinster fan for the last couple of years. La Rochelle know what they need to do. Kick the ball into touch, secure the line out, and yeah, they've won their second Champions Cup 2 years running. And a massive congrats to them because they are deserved winners. And Leinster, on the other hand, well, they suffer another year without a trophy, which for them, and by their standards, and only losing 3 games, they've only lost 3 games this season, is a disaster. But what went wrong from a Leinster perspective? And I guess what went right for La Rochelle? And honestly, if I could answer this with 100% certainty, I'd probably have a job as a top level coach in front of me. But yeah, I can speculate and talk about what I saw in the day. Leinster in the first 15, 20 minutes, I don't think anyone will question this, were probably the best we've seen them all season. The passion, the hunger, the physicality, and the skill. They were playing like champions. And if they could have maintained even 50% of what they were bringing in that first 20 minutes throughout the entire 80, they probably would have lifted the Champions Cup. But La Rochelle got their purple patch between 20th minute and halftime, and they showed they were here to play rugby. The second half, though, was where everything changed. Leinster just seemed to not want to attack. They just, I think they spent 16 seconds in the La Rochelle half before the Colombe try. 16 seconds. That's not what we expect from a Leinster team. Now, don't get me wrong, La Rochelle had them under all sorts of pressure. But Leinster, any chance they had, whether it was turnover ball or whatever, the option was to kick the ball out of their half. They didn't attack really. And not only that, but they were execution. The execution of these kicks was poor. There were block downs, slice kicks straight into touch. Yeah, and yes, La Rochelle, as I said, had them under massive amounts of pressure, but they were putting themselves under pressure as well. Now look, in the last 5 minutes, Leinster showed what they can do if they use the ball. Look at the position they got themselves into, and if not for a crazy moment from Alatoa, they might have actually gotten something from it and do what La Rochelle did to Leinster in 2022 and steal that game at the death. But they shouldn't have had to steal it. Should they? They went 17-0 up at half in the first 20 minutes. But look, it was too little too late. If they had played like that through the entire second half, as I said, they probably would have won this game. But they didn't. La Rochelle, though, are champions. And they showed with that game the grit, the belief in themselves, their coach, their system. And I respect the hell out of them for that. And I congratulate them. They are worthy European champions from that performance. And every time Leinster kicked the ball away, La Rochelle either looked to counter if the ball was kept in play. If it was miskicked, they looked to get Skelton up in the front and use their strength and their power to maul it. And they eventually drew a yellow card on Leinster for this. Or they used their physicality around the middle of the pitch and just slowly drove Leinster back. And look, for the most part, Leinster did pretty well. They matched them physically. They got some really good turnovers. But again, they could not clear the ball. And they were continuously just building on the pressure that La Rochelle were also putting on them. And I guess that's why they lost. They were inaccurate in the second half. They didn't want to attack. The team that was so clinical in the first 20, 25 minutes of the game just didn't play any more rugby. For Leinster, they're going to have to look at that second half and see what happened to their accuracy. Because this is not the Leinster team we've come to expect to see week in, week out. We've seen Leinster get massive leads against teams in the first half and then come out in the second half and put them to the sword. Yeah, and they couldn't do it this game. 16 seconds in the opposition half before they went behind. That's just not good enough. And look, I've seen a lot of blame on the referee for this loss from a Leinster perspective. I don't blame the ref. Look, did he miss things? Yeah, he did, but he missed things on both sides. I can't argue. The breakdown was a nightmare. It was a mess. There's probably two calls that I have any issues over, and it's probably the Jimmy O'Brien one on Raymond Rule. I didn't really see any issue with it. I thought Jimmy had his eyes on the ball the whole time. But look, he does wrap that right arm around, and then you can argue that he plays him in the air. So look, listen, I have no gripes over this one. The one that I might have a little bit of a gripe over is this. And this was kind of missed on the try line after the Colombe score. And it's not much different to what Alatoa did the other side. It's probably not a red card. Doris is quite low. but it's still a clear out directly to the head. It's at least a yellow, and it would have restarted with a penalty for Leinster on halfway, which could have given them an advantage with 6 minutes, 5 minutes left to go in the game. I am disappointed about the reports of what went on at halftime. Um, and it's probably the only time I'm really going to talk about it unless something major comes in terms of bans, etc. But I think both teams really are at fault here. I don't think any member of team management should be chasing the referee to his changing room to have a discussion with him about calls that happened during the first half. O'Gara's kind of known for this. And I don't think Leinster should be posting Sean O'Brien outside the ref's changing room to make sure that this doesn't happen. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. And I think this is something that European rugby and world rugby are going to need to have a look at. If we want some sort of halftime communication between the refs and teams, I think a dedicated amount of time should be set for each captain to talk to the referee individually, not together. Maybe 3-4 minutes. James Ryan, or at the time, Furlong could have went and had a chat with the ref, and then Gregory Aldrich could have came in and had a chat with the ref afterwards. I think that's probably the best way to do it, but yeah, no member of coaching staff, team management, etc. should be following the referee into the changing room. I feel, I've said it before, World Rugby do need to open up lines of communications between refs, players, teams, fans, but it needs to be done right. There needs to be a documented process that gives everybody equal opportunity to have the conversations that need to be had with the referee. But look, we'll move on from that, and if anything major comes from it, I will of course keep you updated. But yeah, back to La Rochelle, and I think this win makes them one of the great European sides, one of the great sides in world rugby. Does it mean Leinster are on their way down? 2 years without a trophy is massive for them, but they are still regularly making European semi-finals, quarterfinals, finals, and they only lost 2 games in the URC this year. So yeah, they're definitely not going anywhere anytime soon because the core of this team is going to be back next year. And remember, Sexton didn't play a single European fixture this year. Ross Byrne played all of them. So we could very much see a repeat of this final again next year. A three-peat, yeah? But, I've seen this mentioned a couple of times on the page, and maybe European rugby and the domestic leagues need to have a look at scheduling. And this probably touches on the global calendar topic a little bit, but maybe it's not a good idea to mingle European knockout rugby and domestic knockout rugby together. Give teams a little bit of a break, either play Europe, maybe play quarter semi-final 3 weeks or 4 weeks, over 4 weeks, and then finish off the domestic league after, or vice versa, finish the domestic league and then do the European finals. I think it just will give teams a better chance to manage resources, manage players, etc. a little bit better. But as I said, this probably touches on the global rugby calendar a little bit, so yeah, we won't do too much into it. But yeah, 7 knockout games in a row is quite a lot to have to play, so something to look at. But look, whatever happened, I have one question: why did Ross Byrne not take that drop goal? Leinster lost to Munster in the exact same scenario last week. I think they might have learned something. But let me know what you think of the game. Do you feel La Rochelle are one of the best now? Is this the beginning and the end for Leinster? I want to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comments. And I'll be back next week for another weekly thought.